Hello, everybody. Welcome to 5 Minute Bible, where I make the valiant effort to talk about scripture in 5 minutes or less. We've been slowly working our way through Psalm 23, and today we are on verse 4, just the first bit. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I'm not even going beyond that, just yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And frankly, right now in our country, it may feel that way to you. We have COVID concerns. We have protests. We have political unrest. There is a lot going on in our country. There's racial injustice, all of these things going on in our country. And it may feel like we're in the valley of the shadow of death. And, you know, a lot of people, their questions are, how can bad things happen in this world? How can we be in the valley of the shadow of death to begin with? And there's 3 points I want to make of that. Number one, back in the garden, when Eve and Adam of their own free wills partook of the fruit, that entered sin into our world. And it didn't just affect Adam and Eve, it affected the entire planet. So our planet is in decline due to the sin in our world. Due to the sin that is present in our world. So that's one reason. Number two, our own free will makes us make choices that can lead to trouble and hard times in our life. For example, if we're not wise with our money, we might be facing foreclosure on our home. And lastly, sometimes others' use of their free will spills all over us, and it's no fault of our own. The point being, the valley of the shadow of death is always there. We all go through hard times and difficult times at some point. We all do. And you know, the Bible doesn't promise fuzzy unicorns. I've heard people say, oh, but I'm a Christian. Why are bad things happening to me? Bad things happen for the 3 reasons I stated above. God doesn't promise that. In fact, he tells us there will be storms. When you look at Psalm 46, he says, you are my refuge and my strength and ever-present help in times of trouble. That means there are times of trouble. We can look in the New Testament, the house that was founded on the rock. There was still the storm raging. So the storms come. We go through the valley of the shadow of death. Bad things happen. But what do bad things do for us? What do bad times do for us? And to talk about this deep thing, I'm going to tell a story that puts me in a very bad light. So I'm not a cook. My husband's a cook, not me. And there was a pack of hot dogs in the meat drawer. And I decided I was actually going to make a nice lunch for my family. You know, hubby works from home. We homeschool. We're all home during the day. And I didn't know how long the hot dogs had been there, but I opened them up. I looked at them. They looked fine. They smelled fine. So I popped them in the toaster oven, and I went to getting out the chili, cutting up onions. I was actually making lunch, getting fruit salad, and I go and I look at these hot dogs that have now been in the broiler for 2 or 3 minutes in the toaster oven, and they have white spots of mold all over them. They looked fine when I took them out of the fridge, but I guess once they were exposed to the heat and dried up from the heat, the mold became apparent on the surface. You know, that is how sort of our lives are. You know, it says in Romans 12 that we are being transformed into a new creature. Well, that means that the Lord is working on the things in our life that has to change. And like those hot dogs, sometimes we have to be exposed to some heat before those things are evident. And that is what bad times and trials do for us. They actually help us become more like Jesus by exposing these things. As it says in Romans 5, verses 3 and 4, we can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance. And endurance develops strength of character. And character strengthens our confident hope of salvation. Suffering brings those spots to the surface. Our trials do, the valley of the shadow of death do, so that we can become more like Christ and develop endurance and strength of character and confident hope in our salvation. Thank you. I will see you next week for 5 more minutes. Bye.